necessary. All right, so I think most of you were on last week, if not all, but just in case you weren't, Albert is kindly come on board to do our college recruitment, assisting. He's our director of college recruitment and will assist our players if they want that. So he did a great job 2 weeks ago, and we got through probably a little over half of his topics. So we're just going to carry on from there. We will be looking to put both of these workshops up for people online as well on our website, so that if people want to go back over them, those things you couldn't quite remember. So we hope to have them up sometime during this week. We're working on those logistics of making sure that we load it up properly so people can see it. Obviously, like last week, there'll be opportunities for questions, but if there is something that comes up during it, if you want to put it in the chat, and I will keep an eye out for that as Albert is talking and help along with that. So other than that, thanks very much for everybody joining us. I will turn it over to Albert.
All right, cool, thanks. So I think we left off, we talked about videos. I remember us talking a little bit about showcases, but I don't think we actually went through the showcase slide. So we'll start off there. And if I repeat myself, then maybe I'll say something a little bit different this time. But so we're gonna start off with showcases. Then we got probably about 8 or 9 more slides to go through. So there'll be some good information here. So talking about showcases, so I talked to Gavin a little bit this last week, just in regards to trying to get a plan together in regards to what showcases are attended or what showcases are best, things like that. And some of the things we talked about in regards to showcases is trying to make sure that you're attending showcases that are the right level for the players, for the teams, right? So I was just down in Indianapolis this weekend for a showcase, and a lot of Division IIIs, a handful of Division I, some NAIAs. But we actually played a game. We actually played against a team from Texas, and one of the coaches was like, "Why would a team from Texas come to Indianapolis when it's 40 and nasty?" And I explained to him, I'm like, "Look," I said, "to be honest with you, in Texas, there's not a lot of Division IIs. There's not a lot of Division IIIs. So they're probably coming here because that's the level of their players, and there's a lot of those schools here at this particular event. So they probably chose that event to try and match up to get their kids some opportunity." So there definitely is some strategy in regards to picking the right showcase for the level of players. The difficult part is that almost every tournament is called a showcase now, and they're all like marketing, colleges and stuff. And even this last one that I went to this weekend, like there was probably 60 colleges listed on this thing. And I was finally started texting coaches. I'm like, "Hey, like, are you here? Like, it said you were coming, you're not here. I don't see you, blah, blah, blah." So even with that, there was far less schools than what was advertised for this particular event. So that is the tricky part. But the goal would be to try and find showcases that you attend on a regular basis, that you can put on a 12-month calendar that fit what you're looking for, and that are consistent, so you get to know how things roll and what coaches are attending those types of events. So I also mentioned the fact that most of the recruiting is done in our state, our region, and then a little bit south into the east, right? So choosing a couple of local showcases, a regional one, and then a national one, right? So the national one is not because everybody wants to go outside that, but a lot of the national ones happen between November and March-ish, right? So it's breaking up the winter season that we have here in Illinois. And a lot of the schools actually from our region travel to those national ones in the Texas or Californias, Arizonas, Floridas, places like that. So you'll actually see like President's Day tournament in Arizona. A lot of coaches from our region go there, and they'll actually still recruit our kids from our area, but it just gives them another opportunity to watch them play 11v11 when we're normally playing 66, 77 inside. So showcases are definitely very important. Communicating well before the event is is what I like to say, kind of similar to the ID camps, trying to create a relationship prior to the event with them, at least to let them know, hey, this is who I am, this is my schedule. They're getting a ton of emails with that, right? But how can you be a little bit different? So when you know you're going to the event, shoot them an email, whatever, 2 months beforehand. Hey, this is our showcase schedule for the next couple of months. Hope to see you there. And then a month out, hey, just wanted to give you a reminder. We're attending this particular showcase. And then when the schedule comes out, hey, we finally got our schedule for this showcase. And now you've communicated with that coach 3 times for one particular showcase, right? So where most kids would probably just communicate once, and that's just the schedule when the schedule comes out. So you're kind of setting yourself apart by communicating well and preparing that coach well ahead of time. I say invite 10 to 12 schools. So whatever, if there's a list of how many ever, if you invite 10 or 12, other players on your team are inviting 10 or 12, when it's all said and done, there's a good chunk of schools that have been invited to come see you play. And then I say, think outside the box. So what I mean by this, let's say there's the list of schools that are coming to the showcase is listed: North Carolina, Notre Dame, Stanford, NIU, Loyola. Everybody's gonna email Notre Dame, North Carolina, Stanford. Everybody's going to do it, right? Think outside the box, do a little bit of research. There's lots of schools, like even going down, there's a couple of schools that were there this weekend that are really high rated for specific academics. Rolls-Holman is a Division III school in Indiana. They're #1 in our region for engineering. Most people in our area think of engineering, they automatically think of Purdue or Illinois, but Rolls-Holman is actually ranked way high when it comes to that. So a lot of kids will pick the popular names, but if you do a little bit of research, you think outside the box and invite those schools that a lot of other kids aren't necessarily paying attention to, that might be what gets you your opportunity. So think outside the box when you're inviting those schools. So this is about recording now. So we talked a little bit about video and such. So sometimes these events offer the recording from the event. Like you can offer, there's an agency through. So if you don't have a VR system or whatever, the games are still being recorded and can be available. If you split the cost up over all your teammates, you're talking about $15-20 for the whole entire event, and you get your 3 games recorded. So talk to your teammates and see if that's a possibility as well. Have complete profiles. This is something that I am very passionate about. Because I believe that this is one of the ways you can set yourself apart, not only as an individual, but as a club, right? So you'll notice that if you ever get a hold of any of these profile books that the showcases or the events put out, there are a ton of incomplete profiles from an individual basis and from a club perspective. So having a complete profile just makes you look professional and it makes you look organized. And that's very important when it comes to the recruiting process. How do you set yourself out apart? Don't sign up for any services offered from outside agencies. So some of these showcases will be sponsored by whoever's going to be doing the profile books. So Captain U is probably one of the most popular ones. Not saying there's nothing wrong with Captain U, but they'll use their sponsorship as a way to try and entice players to sign up for their services. Again, their services, a lot of things within their services are really good, but it's not necessary to sign up for their extra services, especially the fact that you're bringing someone like myself on to help out. That's going to replace paying, potentially thousands of dollars for a membership, their highest membership, compared to far less. And a lot of the information that you would be getting from a website, you'll be getting from in person and me talking to you guys through workshops like this. So don't ever sign up for any outside agency reaching out to you because of a showcase. If you receive a camp invite after an event, confirm they watch you play. Schools will, the reality is they get hundreds of emails, and it's a very common thing to just send out camp invites automatically, right? So that everybody feels as though, hey, the coach is paying attention to me. Again, another reason why I like using platforms like Sports Recruits, which we'll consider moving forward with the club. But you have to understand that the assistant coaches at most every school in the country make some of their finances from camps, right? They make money from inviting kids to come to camps. So if you ever receive something from after an event, just confirm with the coach, hey, did you see me play? Is this camp invite based off of you coming in and watching my team play? Do you think I have the ability to play for your program? Another thing I like to do, whether it's a parent or myself, when I go to events, I personally pass out the profiles. And because of that, I talk to the college coaches. I write down who I talk to. I send follow-ups. And then we can cross-reference. If a kid does get an email from a college, they can say, hey, did this school come and attend? And we have a list of the schools that did attend. So however we move forward from a club perspective, whether it be a parent or a staff member, taking a list of the colleges that did attend us is going to be really important so we can do those follow-ups. And then communicating well after the event as well. So this can be a couple of different ways. One, they did attend, right? And so you're following up, saying, thank you very much for coming to my game. Do you have any feedback, or is there anything I can do to move forward? Or two, they didn't attend, but you are able to say, hey, just let you know, I don't think you were able to watch me play, but we have our games recorded. Would you be interested in me sending you some video, or can I create a highlight video and share it with you? So even communicating after the fact is a really good thing. So communicating before and after, again, is going to be one of those things that gets to set you apart from some of the other players. So as you can imagine, with most things in our lives,
Albert,
yeah, go for it.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you a lot. I just was going to jump in about the tournaments, just because you were talking. Sorry, showcases, just because you were talking about them quickly. So even since 2 weeks ago when we were out with Albert, I was talking to Albert about a couple of opportunities, coming up. So we've already started some work on that. Some of you might have even had Coach Tony reach out to you already. So we're looking at using, I believe, the Las Vegas Mayor's Cup for both girls and boys. They're on 2 different weekends, but that's okay. So we are looking into, and obviously this depends on numbers, but an 03 and an 05 team for boys and girls, if the numbers are there and there. So if you might have already heard from Tony. If you haven't and you would like to be considered, feel free to reach out to me and I can touch base with Tony just to make sure, where he's at with the numbers right now and those kind of things, and talk about it. Typically speaking for this one, it's probably aimed more at our senior, juniors and sophomores. At this point, we're also going to be putting a couple of things up on the website in the near future about a couple of these local ID kind of winter opportunities to go to. Team Chicago does one on the girls' side that we're going to put out there. And I think a couple of girls, actually might even be more than a couple of girls, are going to one this Friday. And we're going to look into some for the boys as well. And I think we're also looking at possibly using the Inter Showcase that's actually in the summer, which both boys and girls can attend. So, and Albert said that's usually very well run and has a decent, and all those ones we know typically do get a pretty good representation of D2, D3 and NAIA coaches, which, to be honest, is typically what we tend to see our kids go to. Do we have a D1 athlete hero there? Absolutely. But, to be honest, most of our players are usually the D2, D3, NAIA. So anyway, sorry, Albert, carry on.
Oh, that was good. So communication, like most things, is going to be one of the most important pieces, right? How can you communicate? I remember a player from soccer's that I was assisting, and at one point I was able to see some of the information that was put that was going from one coach to the next, and it legit said, wow, this kid is an unbelievable communicator, right? And it was one coach talking to the other coach. So he was setting himself apart. I like to use the phrase, be persistent, but not a pest, right? Have a strategy in your communication, have a plan. I often say, put out on on a calendar, I'm going to communicate with these schools. And, if you have a really good relationship and you're on a texting basis, maybe once a week. If it's a school that you're just trying to still receive some interest and gain some interest, maybe every 2 weeks. So communication is very important for sure. This is a good time for parents to step aside a little bit. Like, parents have a role. We talked about it before, right? But players need to build the relationship with the coaches, right? They want to understand and they want to get to know the kid. They want to build that relationship so that, because they know that when they bring that kid in, parents are going to be there telling them what to do, right? So there's definitely some time where parents can step in and help, maybe writing an email and things like that. But when it comes to direct communication, players need to step up and get comfortable with it. Like, there's going to be times where it's going to be uncomfortable, and that's okay. Coaches know they're talking to 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, right? They know that there's going to be some times of anxiety and things like that. But it's important that the kids step up and play a major role in the communication part. Use the different resources in regards to emails and texting and social media. Like, don't do the same thing over and over and over again, especially if you're not getting any response, right? You can send a couple emails and then maybe reach out in a different, maybe you see something on social media and you like, or you retweet something, you retweet it with a message or something, right? So just ways to get your name up there on top of their board, so they see your name over and over again, and then eventually that connection is made. So make sure that you're using. Another strategy that is used is, maybe you try a couple times and then you call me up and you're like, hey, Albert, I've reached out to Coach so-and-so a couple times. Would you mind trying? Right? That's just another way for someone to step in and try and help out. A lot of times people like myself can do it during the day when you're at school, and maybe the coaches are a little bit less active in the tower. So making sure you're trying just the different ways to communicate. It's really important. Be different with the content of your email. So I was just talking to a player the other day. An introduction email is one that's a little bit more in depth, right? It's got 4 or 5 paragraphs, maybe tells a little bit about who you are, where you play, things like that. But then communication after that needs to be like strategized. It could be something as simple as, hey, Coach Smith, notice you had a great game the other day. Congratulations on your win. Hope to see you soon. Just something as simple as that. Or, hey, Coach, I just posted another video to my profile. If you have a few minutes, take a look at it. So just put different things when you're communicating out there. And it's just other ways to get your name up top and in their minds when they're talking about recruits. This is a big one. You'll be very surprised. So the platform that we use and soccer's and Team Chicago and such as Sports Recruits. The reason why I like it is because I get to monitor it, and you'll be surprised at how many kids days go by and they don't respond to a coach that's reached out to them. Remember how difficult it is to actually get a hold of a coach. Like, they have hundreds of emails in their box every single time. I have very, very, very good relationships with coaches, and I'll text them and I won't get a text for a couple of days. So when they do get back to you, jump on it. You have to jump on it and take that opportunity. I know it sounds crazy. I've been married to my wife for over 25 years. I was talking to her on the phone last night, and I got a call from a coach. I said, a coach has called me. Can I hang up? And she said, yeah, of course, right? Because she knows the importance of actually getting connected with those coaches. So it is important. So responding in a timely manner is very, very important. Here's that: be persistent, not a pest thing. So during the season, during their playing season, communication slows way down. They're obviously concentrating on what they're doing in their season, right? So that doesn't mean they're not interested. I like to say they're interested until they tell you there's no opportunity. That's when you finally realize, okay, and now let's move on somewhere else. Making sure your email is appropriate, right? So this is just simple. Most people have Gmails, some sort of name, birthday, jersey number, something, but make sure it's appropriate, right? Obviously, kids come up with some creative stuff, but when it comes to the recruiting thing, being appropriate and being professional and mature as much as possible is only going to benefit you. Social media has become way more active than when I first started doing these talks. I saw yesterday a post from a college coach on Twitter that said something to the fact of a team was passing out their profile sheets, and every single kid had a Twitter handle on the profile sheet. And he said, this is what it's going to. Right now, Twitter is the most used social media avenue for college recruiting type communication, following schools, things like that. A little bit ago, it used to be YouTube and such, but right now Twitter is really hot. So definitely getting on Twitter and liking the schools and paying attention to what they're saying and retweeting their tweets, putting yourself out there with some accolades or things that you've done, scheduling, things like that. Twitter, social media avenues are really big right now. So make sure that you're paying attention to them. With that being said, coaches will creep your accounts, right? They're gonna look at what's going on with your social media stuff. They're gonna look at parents' social media stuff because they want to know, what's this family like, what's this player like, what's going on with them. So if you're posting pictures of high school parties and there's drinking going on or there's partying going on and stuff, and you're just in the picture, even though you might not be holding a cup, that's going to be a factor. That's going to be an issue, right? They're paying attention to that stuff. Posting stuff, believe it or not, with that has to do with politics and things like that. If you're really strong, have a really strong opinion, maybe holding those views off of social media and things like that might benefit you when it comes to getting looked at from a particular school, what they're looking at, right? They want to bring in kids that are going to be obviously well from an academic standpoint, a good teammate, things like that. And they can see some of that stuff based off of what you post and what you like and what you do on social media. And then again, just be active, support the schools that you're interested in, retweet, follow them, things like that. Again, social media is becoming more and more prevalent in the recruiting process. So as I said earlier, parents have a pretty strong role in the whole process, being involved, but remember that it is the player's process. So we obviously want to help our kids, right? We want what's best for our kids. We're definitely going to have an opinion. We're definitely going to have some influence on the schools that they pick. Most parents want to watch their kids in college, right? So a lot of times you'll see parents have influence and want their kids to stay within our region so they can watch as much as they can. So there is definitely an important role for parents, but you have to remember that it's the player's process, and you have to let the player, go through what they believe is in their best interest, and then when we need to incorporate our opinions from coaches, from people like myself, there is a time and a moment for that. Be ready to have disagreements. It's going to happen. Like, I do consulting for college placement, but I've also done consulting for anger management and all kinds of stuff, right? Because parents are like, would you just talk to this person? Or same thing, I talk to the parent or the player, and it's like, my mom is just relentless. She won't leave me alone, right? So there's many times within the process where things get tedious. They get, there's disagreements, and you have to understand that it's stressful for everybody. But in the end, everybody working together is how it gets done. So don't do all the work for the player. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with helping them with an email, reviewing an email. Before my son sends out an email to a college coach, I do review it. I do edit it. I may change some things. I may just tell him how to say things a little bit different, but when it's all said and done, I do want to guide him so that, he's not making a fool of himself. But all means there definitely are times where I'll read an email. I'm like, there's no way Johnny wrote that email. There's no way. That was like someone else, a parent that did that work, right? We talk about like sending emails and when the timing of emails. Like if you're sending out emails to college coaches at 10 o'clock in the morning on a weekday, where should the player be at that point? Typically high school, right? So that might be a way for a coach to say, I wonder why Johnny's email looks so great and it's at 10 o'clock in the, on a Tuesday. So parents, don't do all the work for the player. There's definitely some management in there. So here's a way you can help. I told my son the other day, he's doing his Common App, and he's been struggling with it, and I'm not doing it for him. And he needs to understand that this is how you're going to get scholarship money from an academic standpoint. This is how you're going to get accepted into schools. And I gave him a target. Hey, it's Sunday. How about by Friday you have this, this, and this done? Okay, good idea, right? And then on Wednesday, hey, how's that coming along? So you can set up some goals, set up some targets to help the players out. You absolutely have to be involved in the financial part of it, right? You have to sit down and talk to them. The players have to know what the plan is financially for college. Are you going to help pay? Are they going to take out loans? Do you have an account that is specifically for finances? How much does each kid get? All these things you have to have, the players have to have an understanding, because if you remember, one of the 5 things I talked about in regards to school is making it sure that it's financially doable. You don't want to go down a path of liking a school, setting up a relationship with a school, all these things, only in the end to say there's no way we can afford this school. Right. So having a good idea and explaining to your sons and daughters about the financial piece is very important. So like I said, allowing the coaches to help is no problem. Hey, can you talk to Johnny for me? Or a player, hey, you know, would you mind talking to my dad? I'm just having some trouble. We're disagreeing on this. Having a mediation of someone that is not there all the time, that can just hear both sides of the story and just kind of make things go along. Because again, it's stressful, but it also can be very enjoyable. Love your child. They're making big decisions at a very early age, right? I had a text from my mom yesterday, a girl that's transferring after 1 year. And the girl it's a big risk. You have to put yourself in the transfer portal before you can have any communication with another school. So that's taking a big risk because you don't even know what's going on out there. Right. So this mom said that her daughter's calling her every day, crying and bawling because she doesn't know if she made the right decision. Right. So you have to support your kid. You have to love on them because there's some big decisions going on at a very early age. College coach evaluation. This is really important. You have to look, you have to listen. A lot of times you hear, hey, you know, I'll say to a coach, hey, you know, what are your needs for the next couple of years? And they'll say, we need a center back to replace our 3-time conference center back of the year. Like that's the type of player we need. We don't need somebody that's going to walk on and be the 3rd string center back. We need a center back that's going to be the 1st string. So they'll be specifics. They'll recruit players based on what they currently have. If they have a goalkeeper that's 6'2" and has done well for them, they're going to look for another 6'2" goalkeeper because that's what they believe in. That's a philosophy and that's what they want, right? So it's very common for them to be looking for players that they currently have on the roster based off of style of play, all kinds of different things, right? So because of that, if a school doesn't like you, doesn't mean that you're not good enough, right? It may not be that you're not good enough to play there. It may just be that you're not what they're looking for. There may be some specific things they're looking for, specific skills that they're looking for that are gonna dictate whether you're gonna be a recruit for them or not. So they're not just looking. So here's the thing, like highlights, we typically are sending them when good things are happening, right? Which is obviously good, right? They want to see, do you have the ability to do this, and highlight videos or things that we've done well. But this is also a reason why they want to come watch 11v11. They want to come and for you to attend their ID camps so they can put you in specific situations and see how you react to those situations. So when you're watching 11v11, they're able to watch a player, what their movement is when the ball's not around them, what happens when the player makes a mistake, what happens to the player, what's the player's reaction when a coach is yelling at them or asking them to do something or trying to talk to them. What are the players doing when it's halftime and you see the coach talking, and are these players paying attention to what the coach is saying? They're looking at all of that. They're also looking at the parent that's running up and down the sideline, or the parent that's berating the referee or saying stuff about the coach or saying stuff about other players. They're paying attention to that stuff, and you'd be very surprised at how they find out whose parent that is and things like that. So not only for evaluation for players, but coaches are also looking at parents in the sidelines and things like that as well. So they're actually looking at things when they're going well, things when they're not going so well. How are you reacting? What's your body language when things are going good or things are going bad? Body language is, that's one of the things I always tell my kid. Like if I don't get to see him play a game, I'm like, remember your body language, remember your communication, those two things. They're looking at that stuff. All coaches want fit players. I just talked to a coach yesterday and they said that they're trying to get something for the NCAA to pass to allow them to get their players 4 weeks earlier than what they currently get. Because fitness is a huge issue when it comes to college athletics. If you go in fit, you're set yourself apart from most players. They get these packets that they're supposed to do for the summertime, and not a lot of kids do it. Right, so they have to deal with fitness all the time. So you can give yourself an opportunity by going into your first year of college by being fit. Obviously, by being fit, you're going to help yourself in a club situation as well. An example being playing 3 games in 3 days at a showcase, and the coach is watching you on the 3rd day. Right? If you're not fit, if you're not able to perform and shine in that 3rd day, then you might not show as good as you did maybe in that 1st day. Body language is huge. Body language is 100% judgmental. They may be evaluating you for the first time and don't have a relationship with you. They've never talked to you. They don't know anything about you. And their body language, what they're thinking and who you are without talking to you based on your body language is 100% judgmental. They are saying, oh, this person must be that because of the way you're acting on the field. So body language is really, really, really important when you're getting evaluated by college coaches. So I talked a little bit about this. How are you reacting when your coach is talking to you or telling you or giving you instruction or talking to you at halftime? Are you paying attention? So when the coaches are talking, they get to see you play. But what are some other things? What are they like as a teammate? What's their effort like when they're just going through? Do they just go through the motions in training? Is their effort really strong in training? Are they a team leader? Are they a follower? Are they quiet? The coaches want to get to know the player, and when it comes to being around players and giving those types of opinion, a lot of times the club coaches are the ones that are around them the most, right? So they're able to offer those types of feedback. That conversation will happen every single time. They want to know what the player's all about. Are they going to be a good teammate? They want to see improvement over an evaluation period. Maybe you come to an ID camp and you get an evaluation that says, first touch, could use some improvement on first touch, can use some improvement on, the weak foot on kicking or range of passing. And when they see you 2, 3, 4 months later, they want to see improvement in those areas, right? That shows them that, one, you're paying attention to what they're saying, but then you're continuing to work hard and improve your skill set in hopes that you can fit what they're looking for. Oh, this is a big one. I just had this conversation again this weekend. Coaches will look at you and they'll say, that player would do this for us. Or I think that player would be perfect for this for us. That player would be awesome in our conference based off of this. You may have no clue, or you may have no, you don't know their conference or the style of play of the teams that they play against and things like that. But they see something in you. They may say, hey, Johnny, we know you're a forward and we know you like to play with your back to the goal, but based off of these things that we've seen from you, would you be willing to play the number 10 position? Right? Would you be willing to play this position? And you have to think that these coaches are saying that because they think I can be successful based off of what they're seeing me and what they see on a day-to-day basis with the teams that they play against and the kids that they currently have in their program. So they may be looking at you from a totally different position. So you have to be flexible when it comes to that. If a coach ever asks, hey, are you willing to do this? The answer should always be yes. You can follow it up with, I may need some help. I may need some guidance. I'll work my butt off. But if you think that's where I would be beneficial to your program, yes, I'll absolutely do it. Any questions? Any questions? I know once I get going, I start talking, but let's break now. Does anybody have any questions? All right. Is there anything in the chat, Kevin? No? Okay, cool.
No.
All right, here we go.
I guess, Albert, I do have one. Is there a resource? Because I know there are kind of guidelines around communication, like when you can, what you can. Is there a resource that's good to kind of understand what's inbound versus out of bounds in terms of communication?
Yeah, let me, I have a good form. I'll have to find it. I'll send that out to Gavin in email. But yeah, I got something from a college coach because again, it can be confusing. But yeah, I'll put that out for you.
Okay.
It kind of just
Thank you.
gives a guideline of those exact terms.
Okay.
Let me write that down. Okay. All right. ACT, SAT. My philosophy is take the test early. Take the test when it doesn't mean anything, when there's no pressure, right? Get used to standardized testing and what it's all about. Parents, don't spend money up front. Let the kids take the test a few times, figure out where their weakness is, and then if you have to spend money to improve in certain areas, you can. Okay, but there's no restrictions on when you can take the test. There's no restrictions on how often you take the test. There's no penalty. The coaches don't see that you took the test 15 times, right? The ultimate goal is they're going to take what score is best, and that's what your score is. Some of them may even do super score, which means you take the test 5 times, and in the 5 categories or how many ever categories there are, they'll take your best score from each test out of that category, and that's your super score. Some schools do allow that super score. I encourage people to take both tests, ACT, SAT. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, the state of Illinois switched from ACT to SAT. Some of it was from a financial perspective, but schools have conversion charts, right? You don't have to take one or the other. We did see patterns on the East Coast. They seem to be more of an SAT region, and on our coast, ACT was very popular. But again, because the state of Illinois is now doing the SAT, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't still take the ACT. I would take both. With that being said, there are a lot of schools that are going test optional. During COVID, that threw that even made it far more schools beyond what started early on. So test optional, meaning for admission into the college, you don't need a standardized testing score, right? However, even with some of those schools that were test optional from an admissions standpoint, they still may grant certain scholarships based off of those standardized testing. So you can get in with your GPA and extracurricular activities and things without a test score, but in order to qualify for these scholarships, maybe you have to throw in that standardized testing score, right? So you have to pay attention to some of those fine line type stuff, but it is common. Duke University, really high academic school, is a test optional school, right? So even schools that are known for academics are going test optional. Take the test multiple times, like I said. Again, there's nothing against how often you take it, and the more you take it, the more comfortable you get. And then once you get a score that you like and you're comfortable with, and you say, you know what, that's probably the best I'm going to do, then you're good to go. Get assistance where your weak area is, and then don't break the bank getting help. Like I have a colleague at the firehouse whose son took the test twice, and he needed a few more points in order to get to the school that he wanted to get to. He did pay a lot of money for his son to get help, and he took the test and his score went down. He didn't do any better, even with all the guidance and help. So I love this company. So whether it be unofficial is a text-based ACT, SAT prep company. So they did some research. They used to do the one-on-one test prep like everybody else did. And then one of the instructors had a Olympic, I believe it was a gymnast that was always on the road. And so it was almost impossible for them to meet up and do their ACT prep. So this person just started texting them questions. And long story short, came up with the idea of, hey, wow, we can do this for everybody. So this is actually, the kid gets a text, because most kids will look at their phone and be like, oh, this is a text, I'll answer it, right? They don't have to log into an app. They don't have to get anything. They get a text, and it's a question, an English question, a math question, whatever it is. One text a day. They answer. They have 24 hours to answer it, obviously, before the next next question comes in. If you answer the question correctly, then you move on. If you answer the question incorrectly, a YouTube link pops up right after that and says, you got that question wrong, and here's how to correctly answer it. And you click on the link and you watch a video. It's been a few months since I looked at their website, but when my son was doing it, 12 months ago, it was $10 a month. So very affordable. They did a study with an inner city school. They had a couple hundred students taking it, and they did the whole texting thing. And I want to say the average increase in ACT score is like 4 points. So it's also been very successful. So take a look at that. I'm not saying you have to do it, but it's a pretty good option. So I said communication earlier was probably one of the most important. I said one of the most, but academics is by far. No doubt. You can't, there's no arguing. You absolutely have to have good grades to get into school. You have to have good grades to be eligible. The coaches don't want to have to deal with a player constantly about their grades and such. So it's going to be important. But this is also another reason to make sure you're picking the right level of institution when it comes from an academic standpoint as well, right? Or maybe an area of study. If you want to be a nurse, there are, once you get to your third year of nursing, there's a lot of time you have to put into labs and things like that. So there's a lot of programs that won't allow you to do nursing based on, they know, I want you to be committed as a soccer player, and based off of how much hours you have to put in from a nursing perspective, we don't let any of our athletes take nursing, right? And then you have some smaller schools that would allow that. So maybe that's a reason why you choose one school over the other, because they're allowing you to do something that you want to do from an academic standpoint. But that's college. We're talking about also from an academic standpoint in high school. They want to, this is what we say, start strong and stay strong, right? If you start strong and you just build that pattern of strong academics throughout your high school career, then you're in good shape. If you start off in a bad spot, it's hard to make up, but you definitely have time. If you start off really good and then you falter off at the end, that's the wrong pattern these coaches, these schools are looking for. They want to see your academic pattern going higher. So it's, if there's a bad way to approach academics, it's to start off bad and improve, as opposed to start off good and falter off at the end. So start strong and finish strong is really the best way to do it. AP courses are important. I take one conversation that I had very seriously from a very high academic school, Colorado School of Mines, which is a STEM-based school. And I was having a conversation with him about a player that was thinking about going there. And we were talking about academics, and that player had already sent them their transcripts. And he said, you know what? He goes, I looked at their transcripts and they did great. They'd fit our program based off of, this, and this. He says, but I could probably save that kid a lot of time by telling them, I don't care about AP history. I don't care about AP English. We're a STEM school. You don't have to take AP everything. If you get into an area of study that you think, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is the route I'm going to take from a college perspective. Strongly consider doing really, really good in those types of classes and still get A's, maybe in just a non-AP course, right? Doesn't mean that you have to don't pay attention to those other things, but maybe you don't have to take that AP course. Now, obviously, the other benefit to AP is you get some college credits and things like that. So that's obviously, something you have to consider too. But this particular coach was like, I'm not going to pay attention to your AP English because we're a math and science school, right? So just consider that type of stuff. If you're organized enough to know this is what I want to do, junior, senior year. Make sure you're talking to your high school teachers and counselors and making them aware that you do want to play college athletics. The NCAA does have that, the portal that keeps you on path. Make sure you're eligible. Most kids in our area, it's not crazy hard. Most kids in our area, the high schools in our area, have no problem becoming eligible with the NCAA. But it is important that your teachers and your counselors know that you hope to pursue athletics in college, because there may be a class here or there that you would take rather than the other. But they want to make sure that you're eligible when it's all said and done. Extracurricular activities are very important. So they obviously want good soccer players, right? They want kids that have good academics. They want kids that have culture. They want kids that are going to be a part of their team. They want kids that are going to be involved when they're not in soccer. So I talked about Duke being a test optional school, but what they do pay attention to is this student going to be a good student when they're at Duke? Are they going to be active in the things that the extracurricular activities that we offer at their school? And that's how they're deciding on what students to take. So if you have nothing on your resume from an extracurricular activity, that's not a good sign. Like all I do is academics and soccer. That they don't want to see that, right? They want to see you involved in other things in your school, clubs. It could simply be like my son. It's not a club, but my son is like one of those. I don't know what you call it, maybe sports fanatics or whatever. Like he attends everything at his school. All like the school was in super sections of volleyball and state soccer on the same weekend, and he went from one to the other. So he's like this super fan. Well, in his bio of his sports recruits profile, he mentions a little something about the fact that he's engaged in other activities within his school, something as simple as that. It's not necessarily a club, but it's just showing that activity and that support that they're given to the other, that he was given to the other teams. Community service is something that you shouldn't do just because the school requires you to do 10 hours. Community service should be something that you do because you enjoy to do it. Like as much as the person that you're serving or the people that you're serving or the organization that you're serving benefits from people volunteering, you also benefit when you get to see the impact that you get by serving other people and communicate and doing community service type stuff. So by all means, get together with a couple of friends and do some community service stuff. Building relationships. You never know what the future will bring. My son is a benefit of that. Not my son that's going through the recruiting process now, but my second son, he was an athlete and he got to liking cars, and he went into the auto technology program at his high school, and he was the only athlete in the whole entire class. And he built a relationship with the coach, and the coach loved him, with the teacher. And the teacher loved him because he was something other than what he normally got, right? He always got these kids that were very interested in cars and gears and all this stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. But my son took advantage of a relationship, was a really good student. And that teacher helped my son get into college. That teacher helped my son get directly admitted into a program. When it's all said and done, that teacher helped my son get internships. And wouldn't you know it, the job that he got right out of college was at the place where he did those internships, all from a relationship he built way back in high school, right? Same thing happens in community service type stuff. You serve other people, you build relationships. You never know what comes around, and maybe that people or that organization that you helped out might be where you end up, 3, 4, 6 years down the road. So we talked a little bit about that super score. So that definitely is an important piece. So just do a little bit of research and see if a part of their admissions process, if they're using that super score. Look at the requirements for scholarships. You can start doing this early on, right? Some schools you have scholarships that you're automatically qualify for based off of your GPA, ACT, or whatever. And then you may have specific scholarships for a business student or a nursing student, or, depending on what you're studying, that school within the university may have scholarships specific for that might have certain requirements. If you know that ahead of time, you can work towards setting yourself up to possibly getting those, or at least putting your name in to get those scholarships. Get assistance with the application. So this is whether it be the Common App or individual apps. Counselors at school are very good with this stuff. Parents have relationships with people. That company, the Weathersby Unofficial, has some guidance that you can get some guidance with applications. So get some help, especially if you're struggling with a certain area of applications. So I have a guest speaker that I've used in the past who's very knowledgeable on FAFSA and other financial things within the college spectrum. So there's some programs that are, like, for example, sponsored by the state of Illinois, where you can put your money in a certain fund and things like that. But some families have like other strategies, whether it be grandparents are going to pay for college, or there's a fund that's going to pay for it and stuff. And this gentleman actually tells you where to put what money where that's going to most benefit you when it comes to filling out that FAFSA paperwork. The FAFSA paperwork is what the government says, this is how much we think you can afford, right? So there are definitely some strategies on where to move your money to make yourself more profitable when it comes to out of pocket versus grants versus loans. We already talked about that. So making yourself marketable by getting involved in those extracurricular activities and such is very important. We're going to skip this sports recruits because that's something we'll do in the future. And we're just going to go break down now what you should be doing in the next, in your 4 years, and then we're all done. So freshman year. Start off by getting good grades and make sure your high school counselor knows that you want to be a college athletic. We already talked a little bit about that, right? Start looking at campuses and what's pleasing to your eye. If you go to a tournament in St. Louis, drive around, find, Google what schools are around here and just get a good idea of what a city school looks like, what an urban school looks like, what a private school looks like. You'll find a lot of times that schools that are in the same conference offer very similar lifestyle when it comes to campuses and things like that, right? So take a look at campuses, even if it's not what you're looking like, a school you're interested in, it'll give you a good idea. Some schools are like traditional brick buildings as opposed to new age and technology and things like that, right? Getting involved in those extracurricular activities that we talked about is really important right off the bat. Community service as well. Start to build your player profile. Your player profile at this point there's not gonna have a ton of stuff on there. You're not gonna get recruited from this player profile, but what it's doing is it's helping you to get on a pattern of having complete profile as you start to move through your process. To, again, remember what I talked about earlier, how there's so many people that have incomplete player profiles. If you build the strategy of getting on this from the beginning, then you're most likely to carry it on each stage of your process. You have to watch college soccer. I probably have this conversation more with parents than I do with players, because a lot of times as parents, we believe our player is better than they are, right? Because why? We love our kid and we want what's best for them, right? And we watch our kid all the time against other players. Have you watched college soccer? Have you watched that conference? And in most of the cases, it's no. And you have to watch college soccer. If you're a technical player that plays in the midfield and you want to be on the ball and you connect passes and you're awesome with that, you can't go to a school in the Big 12, because all you'll be doing is looking the ball that's kicked over you and kicked over you and kicked over you, because they're all about athleticism, right? If you never watched a Big 12 game, you wouldn't know that. You have to watch college soccer. It does change. I also often tell kids, you play your best soccer with your club. You'll be surprised at how many colleges play direct, because that's just the easiest thing to do with the amount of time that they have their players. Not saying that there aren't teams that play a possession style play, but you'll be surprised when it comes to actual style of play, how many schools actually play compared to being as direct as possible. So watch college soccer. I love ESPN Plus, $4.99 a month. Great app to watch a lot of college soccer. Attend ID camps even if you're not interested. We talked about that earlier on. When there's no pressure, go just attend them, get to know what it's all like, what it's about. So that way when you are attending them because of you're being recruited by that school, you know what it's all about. Start thinking about creating a list by the end of your freshman year. And then, like I said, take that SAT as much as you can. Take it when there's no pressure. Keep your grades up sophomore year. Keeping your grades up, concentrate on areas of strength. This is where maybe you start to understand, I like math. I don't like math. Or, wow, history is my favorite subject. I want to take some more school, courses that are along that history. Oh, I think I might want to be a trainer in college. Maybe start taking some stuff about the body, things like that. Keep your profile current. Build your list of schools, share with your coaches. So somewhere in your sophomore year, you should start to think about, okay, these are the schools that I think I'm interested in, based off of me being on the campuses, based off of me watching the teams play, based off of going to a couple ID camps. Sometime in your sophomore year is where you should start to kind of get an idea. Let's build a list of schools. In the end, it may not be, your list from what you're doing as a sophomore is going to be very different than when it's all said and done. But it's good to start going in your sophomore year. Communicating with those schools on your list and stay engaged. Again, early in your sophomore year, they can't communicate back other than giving you camp invites, things like that. But there's nothing wrong with, again, staying engaged with their social media, sending them message, communicating, things like that. So now you can start to be a little bit specific with attending camps to the schools on your list, and then start recording your games and doing highlights. Keep involved in those community service projects and activities because they don't want you to just falter off. That should be something that you enjoy doing and involved in your all 4 years. And then June 15th, get ready. That's where they can start, things open up in regards to communication and things like that. So June 15th of your sophomore year is that big date that we talked about early on. So ACT and SAT, so this is where the junior year, they start doing the PSAT and things like that. They start to offer stuff within your school. Your grades are obviously still important, but this is now where it starts to get time where if you didn't start off so well, now it's crunch time. You want to get that GPA up 4, 5, 6 points by the time you graduate. You're really going to have to start getting hot and heavy by your junior year, right? So making some adjustments on your list of schools based off of schools telling you no thank you, based off of feedback that you got, based off of going to an ID camp and you don't like the way the coach coaches. So now that school's off your list, but then you're replacing it with another one. So making some adjustments. Maybe you go to a showcase and the school gets a hold of you based off seeing you play and you had no idea that you would be interested in that school, and now you are, right? So making adjustments to your list is important. Consistent communication is very important, especially those that where there's a mutual interest. Start attending camps that are more specific. Start asking coaches, hey, would it be beneficial for me to attend this camp? Hey, you have 4 camps listed on your website. Which one do you think would be most beneficial for me? They may have a camp where, like, for example, next week, Indiana is having a camp for the girls' side, and we have a player going there because the girls that are already committed for the 2022 class are all coming to that specific camp. So the coaches want this girl to play against or with the players that they've already recruited, right? So ask those questions and attend camps that are more specific to what's going to cater to your best interest. Taking some official visits during the college season. See what the campus is like while school is going on. Go see what the campus is like and things are going while there's a game being played on a game day. What's the vibe like? Are you playing in front of 30 parents or are you playing in front of 250 students, right? Maybe that's something that is important to you. Keep watching that college soccer and go attend games. I say have a goal to commit by your end of your junior year. I also say that COVID has thrown a big curveball in that theory. My son's a senior right now, and he's not committed yet. The NCAA give players an extra year of eligibility. Roster sizes are bigger than they ever been. So if you're not committed by the end of your junior year, it's okay. There's a ton of examples of kids that get recruited in their senior year, right? But nothing wrong with having a goal, right? Now you have your senior year to prepare yourself to play at this specific school. Maybe the coach is telling you, we want you to play this specific position. We had a girl at Team Chicago last year that played in the midfield her whole entire year. She got recruited by Northwestern. She's playing center back at Northwestern. The coaches played her at center back in every game this year, right? Because she committed in a time that allowed her time to play with her club in the position that she's going to play at her college. So this is what I talked a little bit about earlier with the NCAA and NAIA clearinghouse. If you get a scholarship from Division I, Division II of the NCAA, or if you get a scholarship from the NAIA, you must have a NCAA or NAIA clearinghouse number. And so it's basically just the NCAA a way of making $45 off of you, I think it is right now. But it truly is, if you go onto that website, the clearinghouse website, it does give you guidance on keeping you academically eligible, things you need to do on certain times. So there is some beneficial information on that, but you do have to receive that if you do end up getting an athletic scholarship from those 3 levels. Division III, you do not need a clearinghouse number. So senior year, you need to be patient, but it is crunch time, no doubt about it, right? Why aren't you committed at this point? Is it because the schools on your list are way too high of a level for you? Were you not good at communicating? What's the reasoning behind it? Really concentrate on the schools that have shown the most interest, and then ask specific questions. Coach, is there an opportunity for me in your 2023 class? Are you still recruiting for players in your 23 class? Is there going to be opportunity, or should I move on? Specific questions, making them be transparent with you. Don't waste a good opportunity. It may not be your dream school, but it may be your best option, right? So everybody has a school that they want to get to, but maybe that school is a school that's not going to give you scholarship money. Maybe it's not going to give you playing time, but you have another school that's going to give you all those things. You have to consider that. You have to understand that a very low percentage of players in the United States receive scholarship money that help them play, that help their school, and they get to play a sport. So if a school is giving you money, strongly consider it. Start applying to some of the schools. So this is a strategy. If you have not committed anywhere yet, but you know a few schools that are interested in you, or maybe that have told you there's interest, there's nothing wrong with applying to that school, because we've had many instances where it was, hey, coach, I've been accepted to the school and I got this amount of money from an academic standpoint. Is there opportunity from soccer? I don't need any athletic money. Like, the fact that they received so much money from an academic standpoint relieved the coach from giving them athletic money their first year and gave them that opportunity to play. Now you go in there, you prove yourself as a soccer player, and maybe the athletic money comes years 2, 3, and 4. And then communicate like you've never done before, because that's what's really going to be, it's all about, right? These coaches are busy. It's crunch time. What's going to be the best thing for you? Obviously, taking advantage of those opportunities, but being a really good communicator and asking those transparent questions. Wow, a lot of information. I know, that's why we recorded it. So,
Albert, can I just or ask something, or just you were talking about having a goal maybe of looking to get accepted by your junior year, but is it true that D2 and D3 schools don't necessarily complete their rosters quite as quickly as, for instance, D1? Is that true, or kind of yes and no?
I think it depends, right? There's no doubt that all divisions other than Division I typically do recruit later because they let the kid go through the process of trying to get to Division I, because most kids do want to play Division I, and then they're there in the waiting when these kids don't get that opportunity, right? But we have plenty of examples of kids. Like, for example, we talked a little bit about the high academic Division IIIs, like the U Chicagos, the Wash U's, the Carnegie Mellons. You have to be communicating with those schools as a sophomore, even though they're Division III, because they're so competitive from an academic standpoint. They recruit their players just as if they were a Division I program, right?
Okay.
And there's nothing wrong with concentrating on a certain level if that's truly where you want to be, and you can still commit at those other levels earlier. But yes, there's no doubt that the kids that want to play Division I and end up at the other divisions typically do commit a little bit later.
Okay, good, thank you.
All right, a lot of information over a couple days. This is something that is meant to be a workshop. We can revisit a lot of these things as your process starts to develop. Things are going to come up, and this is what we're here for. This is what I'm here for, right? So there might be something that I said within this presentation that changes in the next 2 months because the NCAA changes something, or there may be something specific to you that you have questions about. So this is intended to kind of lay the foundation and give you some information, knowing that the process is going to be hopefully enjoyable for you, but my questions are going to come up as that process develops. So I appreciate those that were involved and watched this. And then obviously for those that are going to be watching the recordings, look forward to creating a relationship and answering any questions that you may have as well.
Great, thank you, Albert.
Thanks, Albert.
So just to finish up here, guys, unless anybody has a question before I kind of wrap things up, if anybody does, and then, or even if you think of something later, obviously you could reach out to myself, and you can also reach out to Albert. Albert's contact information is on our website. On our left-hand menu where it says playing in college, you will see a couple of headings, of which one of them is Director of College Recruitment, and Albert is on there. So, and that would be also, you know, Albert, if people want to reach out to you specifically to kind of start some of this going, they should just do that, correct?
Yeah. If there's some extra help and guidance you need, I do have some like a plan, a structure that I offer to individuals, so we can talk about those specifics if you're interested in a little bit more guidance and help.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right, well, if that's the case, I think we're all good here for tonight. And like I say, you're more than welcome to reach out to us if you think of something later. Thanks very much for joining us for these workshops. Hopefully you found them informational and useful. And obviously we'll look upon on other things like this, and Albert's going to be involved in that, and I know he does a great job with this kind of thing, and is really easy to work with, and he knows what he's doing, and he has great relationships with a lot of different colleges and college coaches. So on that note, thank you, everybody. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving.
Thanks,
and
everyone.
we'll look forward to touching base soon.
You bet.
You're very welcome. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Happy holidays.
You too.
And
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Albert.
All right. Take care, buddy.
All right. Well, I'm sure we'll touch base soon.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm gonna
See you.
save this and we'll figure it out. I'll hit you up for how to share it.